It's a pleasure to have an opportunity to talk with all of you today at this EDUCA conference. I'm Ellen Moir, and I'm the CEO and the founder of New Teacher Center, and I can't think of anything I'd rather talk about than how we actually help novices move to becoming excellent teachers for all kids. My work over all these years has been really focused on accelerating the development of new teachers. New teachers are coming out of teacher preparation programs all over the world, eager to do the best that they possibly can. And I want to make sure that together we maximize their full potential. Before I go on and talk further about the program that we've built, I want to just tell you a personal story. I would not be here today if it weren't for a high school Spanish teacher. I was a junior in high school and I had this fabulous teacher. Her name was Miss Hayward. And one day she came up to me and she said, Elena, hablas español como mexicana. No quieres ser maestra bilingüe. I thought, wow, no one has ever told me I did anything well in school. And here she's suggesting that I speak like Spanish like a native speaker and that I could possibly be a bilingual teacher. So that just lifted my whole life. My mother didn't graduate from high school, my father barely, and my parents really just wanted me to get married or become a secretary. I am forever indebted to Miss Hayward, and I'm going to tell you that I actually found her to say thank you. So one day I was doing what anyone would do, and I was Googling Miss Hayward, and I tried to figure out about when I was in high school, when I was a junior, and how old I thought she was. I actually thought she was a newish teacher. And I found her, and I dialed the phone. Believe me, I was way more nervous than I am today. I was so nervous. And I also felt like I was 16 or 17 again. So I dialed the number, and I got this voice on the other end, and I said, excuse me, but are you Miss Hayward? And she said, yes, I am. And it turned out, then I gave her some of the particulars. I'm not telling you when I was in high school. I gave her some of the particulars. We figured out that indeed she was my high school Spanish teacher. And I said, thank you, thank you, thank you. So this one teacher had such an influence on my life that I want to play it forward. I want to make sure that every child, particularly those whose parents can't advocate for them, get the best education. And each of us, as we think about how we really help teachers be the best that they can, we figure out a slice or an area or an aspect that we can be good at. And I felt that mentoring new teachers, really helping teachers become the best that they could, is the area that I could contribute to the world. So first of all, let's look at the problems that new teachers face. Well, first of all, you all know this, right? The teacher is the single most important ingredient in improving student learning. But what happens to teachers in America, I have a hunch, might happen around the world. Basically, in our country, we hire young, talented teachers who can hardly wait to make a difference. And we assign them the toughest school with the least support in what I like to call a sink or swim environment. And we lose hundreds and hundreds of thousands of teachers every year. You know, for a long time, we were losing 50% of all new teachers in the first 5 years. And I think that is getting better now because more and more districts are working with new teachers through these induction programs. But still, you get young new teachers who can't wait to make a difference. You give them the toughest assignment. Guess what happens to them? They lose their confidence, and they lose their confidence right when they need to have it. Right? Have you ever stood in front of a group of kids, young people, high school students, with no confidence? Well, they sense it, and within a minute, you've got trouble. And so many new teachers, even in the middle of the year, decide that they're going to quit. They don't want to quit yet, but they're not going to return. So I am driven. I am driven around two areas. One, to create better outcomes for underserved kids in the world. And two, to accelerate the teaching profession, to grow it, to make it be as important as the rock stars in America, right? I think teachers all around the world are the rock stars of our world. And I want to also elevate our profession. So I was struggling with what's the area that we could really build out. And in 1988, a long time ago, I started a program to help new teachers. It was a simple idea, and many of you in the room will say, oh, that makes sense. Central to our approach of accelerating new teacher development are our mentors. Now, let me explain what I mean when I say mentor. First and foremost, this expert teacher has to be one of the most talented teachers in a school building, right? We want to make sure that if you went into a school and you said, who are your top 3 teachers? Everyone would point to this individual. Then we have to make sure that this individual, this mentor, has incredible interpersonal communication skills. So they have to be outstanding teachers, have incredible people skills, and the mentor also has to know how to use data and assessment data to drive instruction. The mentor also has to believe that all kids, no matter where they come from, can excel. And there's other areas that we look for, but those are the most important. And then these mentors, after they've been rigorously selected, they go through an interview process and an application interview process, then we bring them together. So we work primarily in large urban districts. You could work in smaller districts, and you could work in consortia of districts. You could bring smaller districts together. But these expert teachers are released full-time. We pair them with a caseload of beginning teachers, first-year teachers. And then the mentor works with the new teacher in their classroom every week over the course of 2 years. Now, this is very important. When I was a first grade teacher decades ago, nice teachers in the school would want to mentor me, but the way they were mentoring was they'd leave a cupcake in my box and say, have a good day. Now, believe me, that was very sweet, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a program that's very instructionally focused, right? So you're in the classroom with a new teacher, you help them set up their classroom, you help them assess their students when they arrive on day 1, you figure out what assets the students bring, and then you help that teacher design lessons for students pre-K through 12, whatever grade level they're in, and whatever subject matter, so that the lessons meet the needs of students. And then we are in that classroom every week. Now that's a different way of being, right? That's like when I taught, you close the door, and in fact some people sometimes gave me advice, if there's a window in your door, on your door, just cover it up so no one can look in. That's very different than what I'm talking about. I'm talking about making teaching public. I'm talking about continually analyzing your practice as a teacher, constantly reflecting on what worked, what didn't work, the challenges, my next steps, and the teacher knows that he or she has a mentor next to them. So this expert teacher is a partner with the new teacher, and they walk the path together. And actually, the mentor is learning just as much as the new teacher, right? It's a learning journey together. Now, as part of this, and as you'll see on this slide, we also use a formative assessment system. So what that is a way, a set of assessment tools that help the mentor and the new teacher generate a conversation. So maybe one of those tools might be something like, let's take a look at all of your students. And what assets do they bring? And so you start to really unpack who your students are. You help the teacher start to personalize education in his or her classroom, right? You know, you've heard this, and you've seen it. New teachers sometimes, often, have trouble with classroom management. A lot of their problems really are that they're trying to learn what they're going to teach at the same time that they're trying to oversee the classroom. So we try and right away give them a lot of important ideas on how to connect with students, right? How to build those connections, and then how to start to personalize learning for kids. And then, so we have a mentor who has their full-time work is to accelerate new teacher development. This partnership along with a set of assessment tools. So one of the areas that we've witnessed is that new teachers become very overwhelmed very quickly. There's a lot coming at them. One of the assessment tools we use is called a collaborative log. In this log, it's simple. You look at first, as I said earlier, what is working? Well, really talented new teachers think nothing's working because they want to be the best that they can. And so you help them start to see the things that they're successful at. You help isolate one or two things that are a problem. And then you really hone in with that new teacher on making a difference in the problem area that they've established. Now, this is a very different way of teaching teachers to teach, right? This is expert teachers in a partnership with new teachers, collectively trying to move their practice forward. A lot of what we read in the literature is that new teachers feel extremely isolated. And that leaves them feeling like they're worse than their peers, they are a fraud, they shouldn't be doing this work. But what we're trying to give them, how we're giving them good, solid instructional learning ideas, we're also giving them emotional support, right? Social emotional well-being of our teachers is incredibly important, but it has to be about something. It has to be about rigor and drive and ensuring that every child is getting the best education. And then the final point you'll see on this slide is how important it is to embed the work within the system, right? You're not having a teacher in a cell isolated alone. They're in a school with many of you. And we want to make sure that our principals really know how to help teachers learn. And when you start seeing schools, and we study schools all across the country, you show me, if I could show you rather a school with a lot of attrition, my hunch is there's something wrong with the climate and the conditions in that school. So principles really matter, both to hold and uphold the best climate and culture possible, to really encourage teachers to learn and to continuously get better, not with a hammer, not posting their test scores in the newspaper, but rather as a journey to be on the path to becoming excellent. What we see is we turn out, after mentoring new teachers for 2 years, we see new teachers who are extremely reflective, who are constantly hungry for feedback, who want to learn. That's the kind of teacher who are curious and passionate and compassionate. And so as we think about the preparation for mentors, because I think, again, it's easy to just assume that we're going to find this excellent teacher and now you're going to be an excellent mentor. But learning to ment is also about becoming excellent at a body of work. So we teach the mentors, right, about the pedagogy that we think really matters, right? We want to teach the mentor to make sure she or he are differentiating instruction, knowing students well, really helping to build out lessons that are tied to assessment data, and constantly engaging young people and ensuring that they're learning. So always asking good questions and thinking, right? We want teachers that are thoughtful, invigorating, and excited about learning. Second, we're really working with teachers, mentors. We want them to meet students where they are. Again, an assets-based approach. It's too easy to say, oh, those kids, they don't have this or they don't have that. Every parent anywhere in the world wants their child to be successful. And our job is to build off of all those assets. And then finally, we really want to help the teacher shape the culture and climate of his or her classroom. Because we know the best teachers have kids at their edge of their seat, wanting to learn and eager to be there every day. So these are the kind of things that we work with our mentors. In addition, we really teach the mentors how to build strong, tight relationships with their new teachers, and in turn, we're trying to foster that kind of trusting relations with students. And we're working hard to help new teachers and mentors build out these habits of mind, as I said earlier, of reflection, of collaboration, of inquiry, of looking at data, assessing student growth, also differentiating and personalizing education. These are very important, and we're constantly helping new teachers build those habits that will translate not only into practice for the kids they have tomorrow or today, but they're going to be there for the kids tomorrow and the next year and the next year. So let's think about that for a second. When we're preparing the next generation of teachers today, we need them and want them to be expert with the students that they're working with today, but we want them to stay on that path to excellence. If they're going to teach 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, no matter how many years they teach, we want the kinds of capabilities that I've been describing today to be a part of their DNA. So for example, listen to this story. I run into this new teacher. I'm talking to him. He's a high school social studies teacher. He says, I'm in my 5th year now, and I still carry with me the voice of my mentor. Right when I'm in the midst of a lesson, I'm thinking of the voice of my mentor. She would have said to me, your pacing is too fast. You're not pausing long enough to let students think. You tend to be engaging with just this subset of students, right? He's telling me the kinds of things he remembers from 4 and 5 years ago. Look, the work we're trying to do together of accelerating teacher learning, of moving new teachers from novice to excellent, it can't be about hoops, hurdles, and hammers. It has to be about caring, empathy, commitment, passion, and a focus on instruction, right? We have a chance, it's hard to change. We all know that, right? It's hard to change things in our life. But if we can launch a new teacher's career and get them on the path to excellence early, we're going to have a lasting effect. And that's what we're trying to do. So as you think about your school and your teachers, I ask you to think about what kinds of things are you building collectively to really empower teachers and to give them the kinds of skills and knowledge and enjoyment that they need to be successful. So as you can see, I'm just passionate about mentoring as a key to improving learning for all students. But let me pause a moment and let me share with you actually how we operationalize some of these ideas, right? So in some states in some of the states in America, there may be money allocated that can be used for mentoring in school districts. And if that's the case, that a state has mentoring dollars, then we try and work closely with the school district to actually envision a robust mentoring model. Because I want to say that money alone is not enough, right? You can have a lot of money and have just a buddy system of mentoring that doesn't have any impact on student learning or teacher development. So we want to try and really help school districts imagine what the most powerful approach to teacher development is. We happen to think having an expert teacher who's released full-time, who can support a subset of the teachers in your school, is one way of getting the best outcomes. But maybe you were to say, look, we can't afford that because some states may not have those resources. But you could say, but we like the idea of finding the most talented teachers in our district or in our school, and we will release them an hour and a half a week. And we'll give them, rather than a whole caseload of new teachers, we'll just give them 2 or 3. That model could also be very effective. But another way we think about resourcing a program like this is to look at all of the different funding sources that a district and school get. And many times, there's a lot of resources for teaching literacy, for example. Well, when you're working K-12, K-6 especially, you're teaching teachers how to teach literacy to kindergarten, first grade, right? So you might be able to use some literacy dollars. Maybe we see sometimes a state, and America is one of them across the country, we're using higher, more rigorous standards. Called Common Core. Each state's now starting to call it its own. In California, we're calling them the California standards. So there's resources for preparing teachers to use these standards. And we could also tap into some of those resources as a vehicle for funding a program like this. Let me just say, you're creative. You have a lot of ideas on how to really engage your teachers. I thought this initially was really about supporting new teachers. What I've come to see is new teachers do get on that path to excellence. But these expert teachers, for the first time in their career, they feel honored, respected, valued, and as you can see in this next slide, they are really instructional leaders. They have acquired a capability and skills that most principals don't even have, because their full-time job has been really to get into classrooms, observe, give feedback, look at the curriculum, look at content, plan lessons, right? I didn't really speak very much today about designing lessons, but you know, curriculum development is key. You've got to have the right content. You need to design those lesson plans in a way that can be flexible, but also at the same time really address individual student needs. So I think I became surprised, if you will, as I thought, oh, let's get in there and help these new teachers. And I started to see, wow, everyone wins with a model like this. Students are the primary beneficiaries, but then you start to see new teachers who are acquiring knowledge very quickly, and really principals say that first-year teachers look like third-year teachers when they observe them. And then you have these excellent teachers, right, who are experienced teachers, who suddenly, not only are they really good teachers, but they become really good teachers of teachers. And I want to pause with that idea for a moment, because in America we tend to bring in a lot of outside consultants to teach teachers to teach. Now, outside consultants, not all of them, but often haven't taught in decades, and if they have, they haven't really taught for the 184 days that a teacher teaches. So I think the model of teachers teaching teachers is really at the heart of building out a better teaching profession. So I'm excited that although I started looking at the new teacher and really thinking about the phases of development that they go through and how to build out teacher development for novices, I now also see that there's a way to build out leadership development, instructional leader development for experienced teachers. And I'm very excited to see that our mentors now want to become principals. And you know, what really happens in our country is you have teachers, they just want to teach, and then you have the dark side. What I mean by that is this split between teachers and principals. There shouldn't be a dark side. We're all part of the same approach to really increased student learning. We all care about kids. That's why we all got in this profession. So I'm happy to see these lines being blurred. Now, you can invent upon what I've just shared with you, but I have an important message, and that is that whatever you do, make it powerful. Make it so that the teachers themselves feel empowered. Make it so that the students are excited to learn, and make it so that the school culture is humming. Now, if you do all these things, we actually can get some results. And, you know, everyone wants to know, well, what's the impact of an approach like this? On teacher retention, the 2009 study that was done by the Chicago School Consortium found that we're upping retention by 20% in Chicago. And I can tell you from looking and researching and studying our work in many, many districts, we're upping retention by between 20 and 30% everywhere. Now, in affluent schools, you don't have that kind of attrition. But in the most underserved schools in America, Secretary Duncan brought us into the south side of Chicago. He said to me, we can't even keep teachers a whole year. We're lucky if we can keep 64% of the teachers 1 year. We came in, we kept 98% 1 year. So we are upping retention significantly. When you talk to teachers and you ask them, what's the quality of this work? We survey every single teacher across the country that works with us. Last year we reached 26,000 new teachers and 8,000 mentors. The new teachers systematically say that this work is improving their practice. They wouldn't be teaching if they didn't have this kind of support, and that they've loved all this learning. And then finally, when you do look at standardized tests, which we all need to look at as well, we have been able to show through experimental design gains in both literacy and math. So all the way around, as you think about this work, not only does it make sense and it's the right thing to do for our teachers, but we also have an impact on student learning. And let me conclude by just saying a couple more things. I'm like driven to do this work. And when I was invited to give this talk, I was excited to know that you're coming to this event and that you care as much as I do about making teaching a better profession. Look, you know, I told you, my parents just thought I could get married and be a secretary. There's nothing wrong with those. But in the end of the day, young people today have many, many, many career options. I want teaching to be important and would love to have you on this journey. Oh, and by the way, Miss Hayward, remember I told you I talked to Miss Hayward? I was so curious. I wanted to know, are you still teaching? She said, no, I only taught 2 years, the years you had me. I thought I was horrible. I felt like a fraud. I didn't think I was doing justice and giving students what they deserved. And so I quit. And I thought, wow, and what have you done? And she said, well, I went into the teleconferencing world and telephones and spent my career in that area. And I'm here to say to you, we can't have Miss Hayward's leaving teaching. So let's lift our profession and give it our all. Thank you.